Welcome everyone. Today we are going to be building this UI from scratch in Flutter. In the project directory, we have an assets folder that contains all the necessary images. In this case, we have images for the Corvette car and we also have images for the Lamborghini car. I didn't spend much time editing them perfectly, so ignore some mistakes that you see in the images. Now, inside of the pubspec.yaml file, I have enlisted these assets so that Flutter knows about them. And I also have a dependency to make that slider, and it's called carousel slider. It's a really good package which provides you many options to play with, and it enables you to make a customizable carousel slider. Whenever I make a project, I usually aim for providing variable values instead of hard-coded ones. So I'm going to create a model for our cars. Inside of the lib folder, I will create a folder named model. And inside of the model folder, I'm going to be creating a file called car.dart. Inside of this file, I will create a class named car. So whenever I create a model for a real-world entity, I ask myself that what does it mean to be that entity? So what does it mean to be a car in this case? Or what all properties would our car have? So first, we would have a company name, which would be a string, then a car name, then a price, and then there would be a list of images which we could map onto the carousel. So I'm going to write list of type string and name it image list or img list. Okay, now what else? Well, right below you can see we have various options. So there are various specifications and features for our car, and we would need to bind together an icon and a string. So I'm going to create a list of maps just like this, and I'm going to specify the two things that this map would take. So it would take an icon and a string, and I'm going to name this list as offer details. If you don't know much about maps, it's okay. Maps are essentially just a data type that allows you to bind together two different values on the basis of key value pairs. So value like icon becomes a key for this specific string. So you can actually access that string by using a key, or you can access the key using the value. We're actually going to do all that in this video only. So moving on, for the features as well, I'm going to do the same thing. Create a list of map which takes an icon and a string and name it features. In case of specifications, you can see that we have three different values which we would need to bind together. So I'm going to create a list of map which takes an icon and it takes a map again, and then the second map would then take a string, and I'm going to name it specifications. So that's it for our car model. Now I'm going to create a constructor and initialize them, and mark all of them as required. Then I will create a class called carList, and it would have only one single member variable, which is a list of car named cars. Then I will initialize that here as well. Then at the top I will create an instance variable of carList class, and I will initialize it by using the carList class object, and it accepts a list of cars, and I'm simply going to import the data for this. So here we have a car object, and I have specified the company name, car name, price, and have also provided some image names for our image list. Then for the offer details, I have created a list. This is how you pass map values to a variable using curly braces. So the first value here specifies the icon as the key, and then the second value specifies a string for our key value paired map. Also remember to use a colon here. That's how you separate the values for our map. I was very confused about this at first. Thanks to Flutter community at Discord for helping me out on that one. Then here the specification argument takes a list of maps which specifies all our specifications options. So first we have an icon, but notice on the right we again have curly braces. Well, that's because here we have created a list of maps which takes an icon and again they take a map. And in the second map here, I've provided two string values. Then just below it, the features argument also takes a list of maps of type icon and string. I'm also going to import some more data for second car object. And that's it for our car model. In main.dart, I have imported material.dart and I've also imported a model. So here I'm going to be creating a global variable. Although practically you wouldn't be using a global variable, you would rather be using an object which you would receive from a screen before this one. Just like what I did in my pizza app speed coding tutorial. For now, I will write var current car equals carList.cars 0. So we are targeting the very first car present in our car list variable which we previously created. Then inside of the material app, I will set the debug show checked mode banner to false and I will set home to main app. Now main app is a stateless widget and inside of the build method, I will return a scaffold and I will provide an app bar. So I will write app bar background color colors.transparent. Now I'm going to specify the back button. So I will write leading container and the container would have a margin of 25 from the left. Then I will specify a child and I will pass icon icons.arrowback and I will set its color to white. Then for creating the heart icon on the right, I will write actions and it takes a list of widgets. So I'm going to write container margin agentsits.only right 25. So we specify a margin of 25 from the right and then in the child I'm going to pass icons.favorite border colors.white. Then I'm going to set the background color of the entire app as black and then I'm going to pass body layout starts. This layout starts is the widget from where the entire layout begins. Now if you look back at the UI, you can see that various widgets are laid out on top of one another. Therefore I will return a stack. So I will write stack children and I will write car details animation first. This car details animation is responsible for carrying out the fade in fade out animation as soon as the bottom sheet is dragged. But for now we're going to leave out the animations and I will simply return the car details object. Then over here I will create the car details widget. So it's just a stateless widget and then inside of the build method I'm going to return a container which takes column as a child. Then I will write cross-axis alignment.start children container padding agentsits.only left 30 child and in the child I will write underscore car title. Car title is a member function. So I will create the member function over here and I will write return column cross-axis alignment.start children and I will pass in the rich text widget. So we have rich text span style and it takes text style. So I will write colors.white and I will set its font size to 38. Then we have children. In the children we specify text span, we give it some text. The text is current car.company name. Then I will write text /n to provide a line break. Then I will write text span text current car.car name style text style and in the text style I will write font weight and in the font weight I will write font weight.w700. This makes the car name a bit bold. Now the rich text widget comes in handy when we have different paragraph of text and we wish to give certain text a different style. Then below rich text I will write size box of height 10. Then again I will write rich text span and I will provide it some style and I will set its font size to 16. Then in the children I will again pass text span text current car.price.to string and I will give it some style by setting its color to gray 20. Then I will write text span text /day style and I will set its style to I will simply change its color to gray. Okay, now that we have the car title, I'm going to hot restart the app and see how it looks. Well, it looks quite good. Then inside of the car title I will write another container which takes a width of $.infinity and child car carousel. Car carousel is a stateful widget and inside of it I will make a list of string named image list and I will mark it as final. Then I will write image list equals to current car.imageList. Then below it I will write final list widget child equals to underscore map image list index string asset name and it will return container Instead of the container, I will pass child image.asset asset/$asset name, and I will specify fit boxFit.fitWidth, and outside of this I will just call .toList function. I will explain this in a bit. Now I will make the map function. So I'm going to write static list t map t list, and it takes a list and it takes a function handler. Then I'm going to create a variable of list type. So I will write list t result, and it's an empty list. So, and then after that I will create a for loop which runs from I to the length of the list, and then inside of the for loop I will write result.add handler I comma list I, and then I'll return this result. So what's happening here? Well, the carousel slider needs a list of widgets. So this list called child will be sent to the carousel slider, and it's a list of type widget. Therefore we need to somehow map the image list, which is a list of strings, into a list of widgets. And to do that, we created our own map function which returns a list of widgets by accepting a list of strings. So I pass in the image list, and then we have a function which takes an index and string asset name. The syntax might look strange to some of you, but just visualize it the way Stream Builder accepts a snapshot, and then we can utilize that snapshot. Similarly, we can utilize this asset name and the index value. So we have essentially just extracted the string value from the image list. Now let's see what's happening in the map function. Basically, it is a map of list type, which means that it will return a list as well. And this T here is just an indication of generic data type, kind of like templates in C++. You can remove that from here if you wish. So it accepts a list and a function as an argument. That's right, we are passing a function as an argument. Then in here we created a list variable named result, which is empty at first. Then here we are iterating over the list using a for loop, which runs up to the end of the list that we passed as an argument. And in here we simply add the handler function that we received with the current index value and the current value present inside of the list using list I, and then we simply return this list of widgets. And this list of widgets is accepted by the child variable over here. This is a bit complex, but it is one of those things that begin to make sense more and more as you keep looking at them and playing with them. Moving on, I'm also going to create a current variable and set it to 0. And in here, I'm going to return a container, and it will accept a column as a child. Then I will write children, and then I will write carousel slider, height 250, viewport fraction 1.0, and items. In the items I'm going to pass child, and then I will import this carousel slider dependency. Now let's run that. So I will perform a hot restart, and there we go. Now we need an indicator at the bottom of the slider. So I will create a container and give it a margin from left of 25. Then I will write child row main axis alignment dot start. Then I'm going to write children underscore map, and it takes the image list variable to return the list of widgets. We just need the value of index, so I will pass index and asset name, and this will then return a container of width 50 and height 2. And then I will give some decoration, box decoration, color, and we are going to be comparing the value of our current variable with the value of index that we receive. So I will write current equal index question mark colors dot gray 100 else color dot colon colors dot gray 600. So if the index is equal to the value of current, then the color is light gray. Otherwise, the color of this container is dark gray. Now we need to change the value of current as the image is swiped. So I will come over here and I will write on page change, which is triggered every time you swipe through one of these images and we get an index. Then I will write set state current equals index. So now as you scroll through those images, the current value of index is updated, and according to it the color of our indicators are also updated. Alright, let's try it out. Okay, so you can see that we have an indicator at the bottom. Now we'll try to swipe through these images, and there we go. You can see that the value of current changes, and according to it the value of our indicator also changes. Let's start working on the bottom sheet of the UI. So I will come at this tag here and I will write custom bottom sheet. Then I will create a stateful widget called custom bottom sheet. I made it stateful because this class would have the animations for the bottom sheet. But for now, I'm going to leave the animations out, and I will implement simple logics to expand it out when the user taps on it. And we will eventually remove that as well, but for now it's necessary so that we can see the various widgets that the bottom sheet will contain. So in here, I will create a double variable called sheet top and set it to 400. And then another variable called min sheet top and set it to 30. Then I will create a boolean variable called isExpanded and set it to false. Now I will come inside of the build method and return positioned widget. Then I will write top, sheet top, left 0, and I will pass gesture detector as a child, and I want to trigger some action on the tap of the sheet. So I will write on tap. Then in here I will write set state is expanded question mark sheet top equal 400 colon sheet top equal min sheet top, and is expanded equals not is expanded. So initially is expanded is set to false, which means that the sheet isn't expanded, and when we click on it, we change the value of is expanded to its complement, and if is expanded is true, which means if the sheet is expanded, so we set its top to 400, otherwise we set its top to min sheet top. Now gesture detector will take sheet container as a child. So over here I'm going to create a stateless widget and name it sheet container. Then inside of the build method, I will write double sheet item height equals 110. This is going to be the height of every single item present inside of the sheet. Then I will return a container which will have a padding from top of 25, and I want the bottom sheet to cover the entire screen on expansion. Therefore, I will set its height and width equal to the height and width of the device screen. So I will write height media query dot of context dot size dot height. Then for the width, I'm going to write media query dot of context dot size dot width. Then I will give it some decorations. I will write box decoration, border radius dot vertical, top radius dot circular 40. So this will basically give the border radius to the top left and top right borders. Then I will write color, and I will pass in this color. Then I'm going to pass column as a child to our container, and this column would have multiple children. First it will have a handle, then offer details, specifications, and features. So first I will write drawer handle, and then I will create a member function named drawer handle. It would return a container, and I'm going to set its margin from bottom to 25, height 3, width 65, and I'm going to give it some decoration. So I'm going to write decoration, box decoration, border radius dot circular 15, and I'm going to give it a color D9 DB DE. Let's see how it looks. And there we go. You can see that we now have a little bar over here. Also, if you keep clicking on it, you can see that it expands and collapses. Alright, now I will create an expanded widget and set its flex to 1. And inside of it, I will pass a list view. To those of you who don't know, this is a better way of giving a list view inside of a column, because mostly when you do it without wrapping a list view with any widget, it causes an error, as the list view expands as much as it could and the column lets it expand as much as it wants. To prevent this, usually people simply use a container and give it a height. And while this may work in some cases, it is not ideal because there you have to explicitly specify the height of the list view. To prevent yourself from explicitly specifying the height of a container, just wrap the list view with an expanded widget and set its flex to 1. Then the list view would take several children. So the first one would be offer details, and I'm going to pass sheet item height to it. Then I will write specifications. It would again have sheet item height, and features. It would again take sheet item height. Then at the end here, I will give a size box of height 220. And for now, I will comment out the specifications and features. So let's work on offer details. So just here, I will create a function called offer details, and it would accept a double variable, and I will name it sheet item height. Then in here it would return a container. Then I'm going to write padding edgeinsets.only top 15 left 40. Then I will pass in a child column, set its cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment dot start. Then I will write children, and then I will pass text, offer details, style, text style, and I will set the color to colors.black, font weight to font weight.w700, and font size to 18. Then just below it I will have a container. So I will write container margin edgeinsets.only top 15, give it a height, sheet item height, child, list view.builder, and we want a horizontal scrolling list view. So I will write scroll direction axis.horizontal. Then I will write item count current car dot offer details dot length, and then I will write item builder, and it takes a context and index. And then inside of the item builder I'm going to return list item. This list item accepts the sheet item height, and it also accepts the map for offer details. So I'm going to write map val, which means map value, and I'm going to pass the current car dot offer details index. So you know that offer details is a list of maps, and this right here would pass the map which is present at this specific index position. Alright, now let's create the list item class. List item is just a stateless widget which accepts the sheet item height and the map value which we just passed to it. So I will create a final double variable named sheet item height, and I will also create a final map variable named map val, and I will initialize them here just like that. So now inside of the build method I will return a container, and I will set its margin to edgeinsets.only right 20, width sheet item height, height sheet item height. Well, I'm passing the same value to height and width as we want the item to be square in shape. Then I will set its padding to edgeinsets.all 10, decoration box decoration, and I will set its color to white and give it a border radius dot circular 15. Then I will write child column main axis alignment dot space evenly, and then I will set cross axis alignment dot center. Then in the children I will write map val dot keys dot element at 0. Now what does that mean? Well, if you come to the model class, you can see that here in offer details we have a value in the left and we have another value on the right. Now like I said, the left one is the key, whereas the right one is the value, constituting the key value pair. So if you want to access the left value, you can do that by using mapval.keys, whereas if you want to access the right value, you can do that by using mapval.values. Alright, so the key for the map is an icon, which is a widget. So we don't need to do anything else here. Now we'll try to access the value part of the map. And the value part is a string, and all these types for variables are known only at runtime. So you will run into an error if you don't put the right value where it should be. Okay, now I will write text mapval.values element at 0. Then I will give it some text align.center, give it some style. So I'm going to write text style, color, colors.black, font weight .w600, and font size 15. Okay, so now we have finally made the list item widget as well. Now let's have a look. So we'll restart the app, and there we go. We now have the offer details. Now I will create the features list. So it is basically the same. So first I will uncomment this member function called features. Then I will create a features function which accepts the double sheet item height and returns a widget. In fact, I'm going to copy the entire code from offer details and paste it over here. And all I need to change is this text to features, and I will change the class member which we are passing. So in the item count, I will write current car.features.length, and inside of the list item, in the map val, I will pass current car.features index, and that's it. So let's have a look, and there we go. We have the features as well. Now let's try the same thing for specifications. So I will uncomment the specifications function, and I will create it over here and paste all the code again. I will change the heading, and then I will simply pass current car.specification.length, and inside of the map val I will pass current car.specification index. Okay, so let's hot restart and see if it works. Well, it doesn't. We have an error. So let's see what does the error says. Well, it says that internal linked hash map string is not a subtype of type string, which means that we are trying to put a map value inside of a string value. So like I said, the compiler shows no error in the code because all these types are known at runtime. And as you can see in the model class that unlike the other list of maps, this one takes an icon as a key and it then takes another map as a value. So clearly we need to change our list item to accommodate this setting as well. So I'm going to come over here at the list item class, and we don't need to do anything at the keys that we are receiving currently because they are simply an icon widget. We need to implement some checks for the value part of the map that we are receiving. So what I will do here is I will check that whether the value part of the map that we are receiving is a map itself or not. If it is a map, then we will print another text widget that you see over here in the finished UI, or else we will not do anything. So for that, first I will create a variable called innerMap, and I will create a boolean variable called isMap. Then to check the type of the value which is being received, we use a keyword called isKeyword. It is equivalent to the type of operator in JavaScript. So I will write if mapval.values.element@0 is map, which means that if the value part of the map which we are receiving is again a map, then this condition is true. And instead of this if, I will write innerMap equals to mapval.values.element@0, and I will set isMap equals true. And in the else part, I will simply write innerMap equal mapval and isMap equal false. Now we would need to make our UI accommodate all these changes, and it is quite easy. You don't need to change anything in this line since it's just an icon widget. Then below it I will write isMap text innerMap.keys.element@0 text align.center style, and I will give it a colors.black, letter spacing to 1.2 and font size 11. Else or colon container. So if the value part of the map is again a map, isMap is set to true, and then text widget is rendered which accepts the key part of the inner map or the nested map. But if the value part of the map which we received is not a map, then we simply return an empty container. And then here I will simply change the map val to inner map. Okay, let's hot reload this and see what happens. Alright, so we have all the three sections working now. So you can see that at the first and the third one we have just an icon and a text, whereas in the middle one we have an icon, a subtitle and a title all binded together using two maps. Okay, now let's move on to animations. First, I'm going to be animating this custom bottom sheet widget, so I will get rid of the isExpanded variable, and I will also remove this setState function from here. Then at the top here I will write animation, and since we are going to be animating a double value, I can also write double. This makes the code more understandable. Then I will create an animation controller named controller. Now I will override an initState method, and I will initialize all these variables. So I will write controller equals animation controller duration const duration, and I'm going to specify the durations in milliseconds. So I'm going to write milliseconds 200 comma vsync this. And we also need to implement the single ticker provider class. So over here I will write with single ticker provider state mixer. Then I'm going to be initializing the animation. So I will write tween, double, begin, sheet top and min sheet top. So we are just defining the bounds of our animation. And then I will write dot animate, and I will pass in the controller. And after that you need to write this dot add listener function, just like that. And inside of the add listener I'm going to write set state. It's going to be an empty set state. Alright, that's it. Now we are just going to animate the top value of the position widget. So for position widget, I will write top animation.value. Then inside of the onTap method, I will write controller.isCompleted controller.reverse controller.forward, which means that if animation is completed, then we reverse the animation, and if it is not, then we move it in the forward direction. So let's see how that looks. Okay, the app has restarted, and now I will tap here, and there we go. It looks quite good, although it would look better if we gave it a curve animation instead. So I will come back here, and inside of the animate function, I will write curved animation parent, and as a parent I will pass controller, and then I will specify the curve. So I will write curves.easeInOut, and for the reverse curve as well, I will write curves.easeInOut. Okay, great. Now let's give it that drag to open functionality as well. So I will write on vertical drag end, and it returns drag end details. So instead of the function, I will create an if block and check the primary velocity. So I will write if drag end details dot primary velocity is less than 0.0. This primary velocity is negative when you drag from bottom to top, which means in upward direction, and it's positive when you drag from top to bottom, which means in downward direction, and it's also 0 at times. So when you drag and don't take off your thumb from the screen, so we need to take care of that as well. In that case, the value of primary velocity is 0. Now inside of this if block, I'm going to write controller.forward, and then I will write else if drag end details dot primary velocity greater than 0. So when a drag from top to bottom takes place, then we want to reverse the animation using controller.reverse. And then for the last case, I will just write else return. Great. Now let's run it and test it. Well, it does works. Now when all this happens, we would trigger some animation for the car container as well. There are several ways to do that, but I decided to go with a simple block pattern. If you don't know much about it, you can go and watch the previous video of mine, or click on that card to know about it in detail. Although the block pattern which we're going to be implementing is really simple enough, so you can keep watching this video as well. It's just that I went over all this in a bit more detailed manner in the video I referred earlier. So we create a stream which tracks the animation state, and whenever the animation state changes, we trigger the animations from the bottom sheet as well as the car container. So over here, I'll create a folder called block. Then inside of it, I'll create two files called state block and state provider. State provider is responsible for tracking the animation state, whereas state block is responsible for communicating with the state provider and getting the latest value of animation state from it and then putting it on the stream. So first, I will go inside of the state provider.dart and I will create a class state provider. Then I will create a boolean variable called isAnimating and set it to true. And then I will create a function called toggle animation value, which will return the complement of isAnimating like this. By the way, there's a reason why we set isAnimating to true initially. You'll know about it soon. For now, I will go into the stateblock.dart file and I will import the stateprovider.dart, and I will also import dart async package. Then here I will create a class stateBlock, and inside of the stateBlock I will define a variable of type streamController, and I will name it animationController equals streamController. Then I will write final stateProvider provider equals stateProvider. After that, I will create a stream, so I will write stream get animation status, which returns the stream from the animation controller. So I will write animationController.stream. Now I will create a function which is responsible for talking to the provider to toggle the animation value. So I will write void toggle animation, and inside of it I will write provider.toggle animation value. So this will toggle the animation value, and then I will fetch the updated animation value and put it on the stream. So I will write animationController.sync.add provider.isAnimating. Then I will also create a dispose method, so I will write void dispose animationController.close. Then at the very end of the file, I'll create a variable called final stateBlock equals stateBlock. Great. Then I will come back to main.dart. And in here, I'll go to car details animation class, and we will have two animations, scaling and fading. So I'll create two controllers, animation controller fade controller and animation controller scale controller. Although you can do this with a single controller as well, but this gives us more freedom in managing both the animations differently, like giving them different curves and duration and all that. And since we have two controllers and two animations, therefore I would have to implement ticker provider state mixin, whereas previously we implemented single ticker provider. That's because there was just a single controller. Alright, now we will have two different animation instances. So I will write animation fade animation and animation scale animation. Then I will override the init state and initialize the controllers. So I'll write fade controller equals animation controller, and then I'll give it some duration, a duration of 180 in milliseconds, and then I will write vsync this. And for the scale controller as well, I will write animation controller and then give it a duration of 350 milliseconds and then set vsync to this. Now for the fade animation, I'm going to write fade animation equals tween begin 0.0 end 1.0 dot animate, and I will pass in the fade controller. Then in case of scale animation, I'm going to write scale animation equals tween begin 0.8 end 1.0, and then I'll write dot animate curved animation. So we want a curved animation for this scale animation. So I'll write curved animation parent scale controller curve curves dot ease in out, and for reverse curve as well I will pass ease in out. Okay, great. Now since we have two controllers, therefore I would simply create two functions, namely forward, and inside of the forward I will write scroll controller dot forward and fade controller dot forward. Similarly, I'll create a function named reverse, which will contain scroll controller dot reverse and fade controller dot reverse. And inside of the build method, we just have this car details object. So we're going to change that. At the root of this widget, I will return a stream builder, and I will write initial data, and I will pass the initial data as state provider dot is animating. And this is the reason why we kept the is animating true at first, so that true value is passed initially and we are able to show the car details widget. Then I will create a stream state block dot get animation status, and then I will check the snapshot dot data, which is a boolean value. So if a snapshot dot data is true, I want forward function to be executed, or else I want to execute reverse function. So snapshot dot data is nothing but the is animating value that we are receiving from the stream. And now I will return the scale transition. So I will set its scale value to scale animation and child as fade transition, and set its opacity as fade transition animation. And then finally I will pass car details class as a child for the fade transition widget. Although our animation is still not complete, so I will come inside of this custom bottom sheet widget, and every time when the animation runs, we need to toggle the state of the animation. So over here I'll create a function called forward animation, and inside of it I'm going to write controller.forward and stateBlock.toggle animation. So every time forward is executed, the animation runs and stream is updated with a new value of is animating variable. Similarly, I'll create a reverse animation function which has controller.reverse and stateBlock.toggle animation. Then I will replace the controller.forward method calls with forward animation function and controller.reverse method calls with reverse animation. And that's it, that should work. So I'll hot restart the app again. Now I will drag this container, and there we go. The car container scales down and then fades away. And then as I drag it down, it reappears. Great, so our UI finally works. The only thing that's left is the rent button at the bottom right corner. So what I'm going to do is I will come over here in the layout starts build method, and in the very bottom I will write rent button, and just below I will create a stateless widget called rent button. And I'm just going to import the code since the video is quite long already. Now you can see that inside of the rent button we are simply returning an align widget which sets the align to alignment.bottom right, and then we have sized box as a child whose width is set to 200 to set the width of our button, and then this button is nothing but a flat button, and I've set on pressed as empty. Then I've set child text. Inside of the text I've written rent car, and then I've given it some style. Then I have made use of the shape attribute to give it that border radius, and then I simply set the color to black and gave the button a padding of 25. So that's it. So let's hot restart it once more and see how the button looks. I hope this gives you a basic idea of making UIs which involve various different animations. And also this video kind of introduced you to the map variable, which is not much often used, but it is really helpful, and we did some custom things with it as well. Overall, I hope you learned something new and enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more of these UI and Flutter tutorials. Also, if you have a UI design which you have seen somewhere, feel free to send it to me on Instagram, and I'll see if I can make a video about it. Also, if you have any doubt or queries or even suggestion, then leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to share this video to the people whom you think would be interested in this content. Alright then, see you soon.